Hey everyone, welcome back to another math video. In today's math video, we're going to be talking about multiplying polynomials. And in the examples you see today, they're going to be specifically about using what we call the distributive property to multiply a monomial, one thing that has one term, to something that has three terms, a trinomial. And this is going to be the first step in learning how to multiply polynomials. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Here we have a monomial on the outside, and we have a trinomial in parentheses. So the monomial is 6x. Remember, that just means it has one term. And a trinomial, tri meaning three terms, three things, being added or subtracted. So in the parentheses, we have x squared minus 4x minus 3. And as mentioned slightly before, we are going to be using what's called the distributive property, okay? And here's what the distributive property states. The distributive property states that whatever's on the outside of these parentheses, when I'm in sort of this scenario, I have to multiply that by everything that's inside the parentheses. So let's start off first by doing 6x times x squared. Multiplying these two together, I would get 6x raised to the power of 3. The reason why it's a 3 is because technically there is a 1 on this x. Also, there's an exponent of a 1 on this x as well. But you have to remember that every time it's 1, it's not going to be written, okay? So we multiply our coefficients. Since this didn't have a number in front of the x, the 6 stayed the same. But then we add our exponents. 2 plus 1, that's 3. So now let's go ahead and multiply 6x times this negative 4x. So 6 times negative 4, that is a negative 24. X times x, they both have a 1, so 1 plus 1 would be 2. So I'd get negative 24x squared from that middle term. Now we just have to do this last term, 6x times this negative 3, okay? 6 times negative 3 would be negative 18. And because the negative 3 doesn't have an x, we just keep our x the same. So that would just be x. And that's how you use the distributive property to multiply this monomial times a trinomial. Let's go ahead and let's look at another example so that you get more practice. So same thing here, I have negative 5x raised to the power of 3 times 2x raised to the power of 3 minus 4x squared plus 2. So again, we're going to use the distributive property. We're going to multiply this out here to what's on the inside. So negative 5x raised to the power of 3 times a 2x raised to the power of 3. We get a negative 10, because negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. X to the 3 times x to the 3, we add those 3's together, we get x to the power of 6. Going to multiply these next two. Now negative 5x raised to the power of 3 times that negative 4x squared. A negative times a negative, that would get me a positive. So negative 5 times negative 4, that's a positive 20. X raised to the power of 3 times x raised to the power of 2, out of that 3 and the 2, you get 5. Finally, negative 5x raised to the power of 3 times a positive 2, that would give me a negative 10x raised to the power of 3. And that's how we multiply using the distributive property. So hopefully now you feel like you can multiply these kinds of polynomials. And we're talking specifically about a monomial times a trinomial. The distributive property can help you not only solve these types of multiplication problems, but it'll also help you solve a multiplication problem that's a monomial times any other type of polynomial. It doesn't matter what the size is, okay? You'll see a hint of that. We can even use that when we don't have a monomial. We can use the distributive property also when we're dealing with binomials times a binomial, okay? So definitely stay tuned for that video. That one will be helpful as well. I'm also going to cover the box method and the FOIL method soon as well, so stay tuned for that too. As always, I just want to thank you for watching, and I hope you really do continue learning some math.